in that. That's definitely an area that I'm very well versed in. So I feel, that I can talk about it with quite a lot of dare I say, authority. Yeah, so that was my plan. And then also I might have something called Spooky Saturday where we just talk about aliens and ghosts and, just spooky and kooky things. Just, for a bit of levity, I think, after, discussing some more heavy topics. But as always, I think I will also just have, you know, some shit posting sessions where we just gossip about celebrities and make fun of people who's, are dum dums. It's fun. You gotta make what you can out of life, I say. But yeah, those are, sorry, I've got a new mic. I just turned away from it. I forgot. I don't have my headset anymore. Um yeah, that's the trajectory we might be heading in. I might kind of have, you know, I'm setting up a schedule. I think I'm going to start streaming maybe like 10 past 8ish every day. Yeah, that's the plans. But thank you for everybody who's been watching so far. I've only been streaming for just over a week. And yeah, I've got over 1,000 followers. So yeah, it's thank you guys. It's really, really cool that people are actually listening to me and actually participating in the chat and kind of building a little community. It's really nice. My algorithm has gone buck wild with all the weird stuff I talk about. It has no idea what to do. Here we are. Here is the man, the myth, the legend, Christopher Boyce. It's actually 1.4K. Although I think a lot of people followed without actually clicking through. Like, I think they just like the way that my model. I have to thank my friend that made the model for me. He went to great lengths to try and make it look like me. So, and he's very gifted with the tisms. So it actually strangely does look like me. I wish I could do the hair buns, but unfortunately I do not have enough hair for that. And I don't have red eyes, and I don't have a moon in the middle of my head, but he got the vibes right. We like it. So, this is an interview with one of Australia's most famous journalists, Ray Martin, on the show 60 Minutes with Christopher Boyce from 1982. Ray Martin travelled to the United States to interview Christopher Boyce while he was in prison.
Think back to Australia in the mid-1970s. Lots of strikes, the Whitlam government in deep trouble. A growing controversy over American bases like Pine Gap. The Governor-General, Sir John Kerr, more and more involved in a parliamentary crisis regarding supply.
So, for those of you that don't know, Australia is a constitutional monarchy, and so our head of state is technically the king. However, obviously the king doesn't get involved in like Canada's and New Zealand and Australia's like every decision. So there's a position called the Governor General, and the Governor General serves in the king's stead. So he is, the king's spokesperson. He acts as a proxy for the king. So when he's talking about John Kerr, that's who he's referring to. Gough Whitlam was the Prime Minister at the time. Obviously, this was a time of great social change in Australia where all of our, socialized medicine and things like that were enacted. Other things that Gough Whitlam did was end conscription and bring our boys back from Vietnam. It's now in the Constitution that conscription is prohibited. So that's really cool because being forced to fight in a foreign war is, yeah. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. I think we all know that's fucked up.
All that, as it turned out, marked the start of a truly amazing spy story. Christopher Boyce at that time was a young telex operator working for an American company known as TRW. It was a private company that had close connections with the US government, particularly the CIA, because TRW helped run America's super-secret spy satellite system. And being where he was, Boyce occasionally came across telex messages. In this story, you'll hear them referred to as Twixes, and other material pertaining to CIA activity in Australia. And what he heard and saw made him so angry that his own country could cheat such a good ally as Australia that he decided to start selling information to the Russians. He was caught and convicted in 1977, one of the most important spies since World War II. He staged a daring escape and was recaptured only last year. Since then, the
This
big
guy's
American
such a
media
legend. Can we all just give a clap to Christopher Boyce, the man, the myth, the legend? Yeah. I was just gonna say, any more context I need to give? Pine Gap is still in operation in Australia. It's what America uses. One of the most important American military installations outside of the US. It's used to triangulate, among other things, America's missile systems. Obviously, you need, there's a big part missing from your trajectory if you can't factor in the southern hemisphere. So that's where we come into play. Obviously, the middle of Australia, out near Alice Springs, is primed to have a military base for all your satellite operations. So that's where it is, and that's really important context for this video.
Groups have been trying to get his story, but instead he agreed to speak only to us in a remarkable meeting that took place at Leavenworth Prison in Kansas. So why choose us?
Because you are Australian journalists, and because what kicked this all off was deceptions by my government against yours.
What you did has been described as the greatest security breach in decades.
Serves them right.
Serves them right.
It's my feeling on it. I have no regrets. What was going on in Australia, what the Twixes I saw concerning your labor unions, like you say, kicked it off. But my primary purpose was personal grudge.
I don't want to be overly dramatic at all, but I mean, did you want to be a martyr?
I thought it was a unique way to express myself.
Only the Russians know exactly.
I'm sorry. How can you not love this guy? Like, if I existed in 1982, I would have, been doing the Luigi thing. I would be sending this guy like my nudes. I would be sending him, money for the commissary. I would be sending him, that ramen money. Like, this guy is amazing. I wouldn't really send him my nudes, but you know what I'm trying to express. I'm trying to express that, like, I would definitely send him some cash though. Like, yeah. Not that it made any difference, but a lot of Australians are only learning about this now, actually. I first learned about it in a John Pilger book actually called Australia, the Secret Country, which I think my dad gave me a copy of when I was really, really, really young because I started asking a lot of questions about things. And I think I read it when I was 12 actually, and it really, really sent me on like a little political pipeline.
Exactly what secrets Christopher Boyce gave them. But the CIA calls what he did the most damaging act of espionage in decades. Boyce says that what finally turned him into a spy was America's deception of Australia.
My government was deceiving an ally that had been an ally for 2 world wars, English-speaking parliamentary democracy. I thought it was indicative to what my country had sunk to.
This is Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary in Kansas. It's a maximum.
And at the time, Australian troops, a lot of whom were conscripted, were fighting in Vietnam as well. You know, at the behest of America. That's you know, what a good ally we are. Sending our young men off to die for the American empire.
Security prison. And right now there are 1,030 men locked up inside here. All of them are regarded as highly dangerous. There are kidnappers, hijackers, mass murderers, and others. And there's also Christopher Boyce, the former Catholic altar boy who thought that for a while he might become a priest, but instead ended up as a notorious Russian spy.
All right, so we'll have to go ahead and take a look at the articles in here.
It's almost as difficult getting into Leavenworth as it is getting out.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a film magazine. It's much the same. The rest is just film. What exactly are you looking for?
Well, articles of contraband, your narcotics, weapons, drugs, anything of this nature.
Oh, Chris
Boyce's
deserves
new
some
quarters in
drugs.
maximum
Come on,
security
let him have
are a stark
drugs.
contrast to his family home in Palos Verdes in Southern California. His was a safe, affluent, comfortable childhood. The eldest of 9 children, with a strict Catholic mother and an FBI agent father, Boyce was the student athlete with an IQ of 140. But the all-American
That's impressive.
grew up
That's
to be a traitor.
That's many standard deviations above average. Like, that's, you know, that's genius level. So smart dude. Principled and smart, we like.
Well, I have no problems with the label of traitor if you qualify what it's to, and I think that eventually the United States government is going to involve the world in the next World War, and being a traitor to that, I have absolutely no problems with that whatsoever.
Had you ever been one of those my country right or wrong kids?
Absolutely. I was brought up in a very conservative home, the writer Kubla Khan. As I got older, I came to see that most everything that I believed in was hypocrisy in this country. That things just aren't as they appear.
Do you think that shock would have been any less if you hadn't been brought up in such a strictly conservative family?
Well, yeah, it never would have happened. What has transpired never would have happened.
Are you, or were you ever a communist?
No.
He is rebellious, adventurous, ideological, nonconformist.
Bill Doherty once worked for the FBI. Now he's Boyce's lawyer.
I don't know if it's enough reason or not, but that's probably why he did what he did.
But why do you think? I mean, if you had to explain it to someone, why he sold secrets to the Russians?
I think that the main reason was adventure. Then I think it was adventure in the crucible of the times, the Vietnam War, the disillusionment of American youth, being fed into slaughter time and time again for no reason. I think these are some of the reasons he did what he did.
Christopher Boyce worked here in Southern California for 2 years. It may not look like it, but TRW is a top-secret installation. This is where they build satellites for the CIA, including the black satellites that spy on Russia and China, and use Pine Gap as a relay station for sending information back here to the United States. Now, within TRW, the most highly classified area was a place called the Black Vault. That was a room where they kept the messages and the codes. Now, to work in there, you need to be passed by the FBI, to get a clearance then from the CIA, and beyond that, a clearance from the National Security Agency. At 21 and a college dropout, Christopher Boyce had them all. Now, for other California kids, if they wanted to protest, they could smoke dope, or they could burn their draft cards, or they could join the anti-war marches. For Christopher Boyce, he had something else.
Well, I was pretty well astounded with all the gadgetry and what was going on, and the fact that I had access to all this information. Never in my wildest dreams ever occurred to me that when I went to work for TRW that I would be in fact privy to information like that. It was pretty shocking.
How did a 21-year-old dropout, earning $140 a week, get access to those kinds of secrets?
Well, through the old boy network, his father had been an FBI agent. The chief of TRW security had been an FBI agent.
He said that. Is that all it takes?
That's all it takes. They had absolutely no security in the black hole at TRW. Absolutely no security. The uncontradicted evidence in the trial is that there was a telephone with an extension cord outside the vault that could reach in, and theoretically he could have sat at the code machine and read the code coming directly from Langley CIA headquarters and dictated on the telephone to anywhere in the world.
Where he was just calling the Russians from an extension cord phone from outside of the secret black room. That's hilarious. This guy's amazing.
You can't even do that on a racetrack.
Boyce was a telex operator for a number of CIA projects, including the Rhyolite and Argus projects. These were sophisticated, highly classified spies in the sky, monitoring and photographing military bases and missile launches in the Soviet Union and China. Because Pine Gap in the Northern Territory was an absolutely vital cog in the CIA's spy satellite network, Canberra and Washington had signed an executive agreement under which Australia was to share this secret information.
They don't share shit with us. You know, the only Australians that are employed there are security guards that stand like about 5 kilometers outside of the base and secure the perimeter, and the cleaners. Those are the only Australian citizens working out at the base, and they do not share jack shit with us. But any prime minister that's tried to bring it up has strangely been removed as party leader and knifed and promptly replaced. So, yeah.
Information derived from the research programs conducted at the facility shall be shared by the two governments.
Boyce and his espionage accomplice, Andrew Dalton Lee, sold the Russians the codes and other secret details of both the Rhyolite and Argus projects. According to Boyce, that's much more than America's partner, Australia, ever got.
When the Rhyolite project was first put in place, the executive agreement meant that all information was to be shared between the American government and the Australian government. And along came Mr. Whitlam. When I went to work for the project, the initial security briefing that I had, I was told that, in fact, we weren't going to live up to that agreement and that we hadn't been, and that there was information that was being withheld, and also that the Argus project, which was the advanced Rhyolite project, was to be hidden from Australians.
But you were told specifically that by
Rick Smith, the security project director.
Was he CIA?
Former.
So you were told that the Americans would not live up to the agreement that they had.
That all information wouldn't be shared, no, and wasn't being shared.
I mean, that's very important. I mean, it was no attempt to try and hide it. That was part of your briefing.
Definitely, yeah.
Were you aware, though, that...
Yeah. I mean, being backstabbed, I mean, should we be surprised? No. Yeah, we should have given asylum to this guy. I mean, I know it would have severely fractured our relationship with America, but I mean, really at this stage, the sun is setting on the American empire. New superpowers are emerging. I don't remember if he's still alive. I did look a few years ago, but I don't remember. Let's have a quick Google. Maybe we can start a movement to get Christopher Boyd asylum in Australia. We'll get him a house. We'll get him a hot wife. We'll sort it out. Christopher. Why did I put chirped twice. This has to be him, right? No, that's not him. Huh, has he been scrubbed from the internet? CIA whistleblower. Did I write Boyd instead of Boyce? Is it Boyce or Boy? No, it's Boyce. Oh, I wrote Boyd. Dyslexia makes you sexier, everyone. There we go. Is he dead? He's still alive. He's 72. Where is he? Can we find him? Yeah, I knew it was Boyce, but then I typed in Boyd. I don't know, my brain does weird things sometimes. Yeah, he's still alive. He's still alive. Who wants to find him and bring him home where he belongs? The sunburnt country. Let's get him. We love him. He's our hero.
Those American bases in Australia had become a very hot political issue?
Not to the extent that it was, but there was definitely conversations in the Black Vault and in the security area with members of TRW security about the problem of Mr. Whitlam.
Well, they spoke openly about this, did they?
Well, yes, Mr. Whitlam was not a popular figure at all, to say the least.
Did they say why?
Well, first of all, it's politics, socialistic, and the fact that inquiries were being made about the base. Mr. Whitlam was, by wanting to know what was going on there and by publicizing it, was compromising the integrity of the project.
Compromising the integrity.
So they outright said they didn't like his socialistic policies. It's on record.
Was that?
That's a familiar term that I heard quite a bit.
Did you
Mr. Whitlam had no business sniffing around the Rhyolite project. To their view, he was on the wrong ball club.
Even though the bases were in Australia?
Well, yes, Mr. Whitlam's government was a threat.
That's the way they described it?
Yes.
Did you get the impression that things had changed once the Labor government, the Whitlam government, came into office from what they had been before? And did they change after he left?
It was a bit of celebration that Mr. Whitlam had been canned, but my instructions as to what was to be sent on to Merino and Casino.
And Merino Casino was Canberra, and Merino was Alice Springs.
Correct. Did not change, no.
So after Mr. Fraser was elected Prime Minister after Mr. Whitlam, the instructions were still the same?
Remain the same.
Did they talk about how or why he was forced out?
No, but there was references to your Governor General by the Central Intelligence residents there at TRW in the Rhyolite Project. They called Mr. Kerr our man Kerr.
What, the CIA man said that?
Yes, Joe Harrison said that in the security area one time.
So intelligence that he had eyes on referred to Kerr as a CIA asset, essentially, is what he's saying, which is, pretty damning.
Have I ever heard that?
Christopher Boyce telling what he knows about the CIA and its meddling in Australian politics. But he goes on to mention other disturbing events, including CIA infiltration of Australian unions. More of that part of the spy's story after this break. More of the story of Christopher Boyce, the disillusioned spy. As he told us in our meeting at Leavenworth Prison, he went over to the Russians after discovering some of the dirty tricks the CIA was ready to play on a good ally like Australia. Working as he did on the US spy satellite program, Boyce could talk to CIA agents and read various telex messages, or as he called them, Twixes, coming from and to Australia. What you'll hear next are details of how the CIA infiltrated Australian unions and more of its double dealings even when the new Conservative government of Malcolm Fraser came to power. That was after the sacking of the Whitlam.
Can you imagine in modern day Australia, some Seppo trying to infiltrate like the CFMEU or the MUA or something? Could you actually imagine? Like, because have you ever seen an American actor convincingly do an Australian accent? I've heard a few poms do an okay one. Oh, that girl that was recently in like the Netflix show Apple Cider Vinegar. Apparently, she was pretty passable, but she had like accent training. Although I suppose CIA assets would do accent training too, wouldn't they? Although I still reckon we could spot a Seppo from a mile away.
Government by this man, the then Governor General, Sir John Kerr.
There was references to your Governor General by the Central Intelligence resident there at TRW in the Rhyolite Project. They call Mr. Kerr our man Kerr.
Just 2 days before a
I think we're about to hear the immortal words. Well, may we say, God save the Queen, because nothing will save the Governor General. Yes, we love it. Can you spot the Goth Whitlam fangirl? Yes, you can. I'm right here.
federal parliamentary debate was due on the American satellite bases, a CIA telex arrived in Canberra. It warned that Prime Minister Whitlam was in danger of blowing the lid off Pine Gap. The next day, the Whitlam Labor government was dismissed.
The proclamation.
Surely a coincidence, right? Surely a coincidence. And maintain the rage indeed. And we should maintain the rage right up until this day. Australia should not be a vassal state of the United States. It's disgusting, the atrocities they commit, and by extension, the atrocities we commit. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. It's so gross. It's so disgusting. It's so infuriating. You know, I always hear Americans say, "Oh, Australians are so similar to us." How? You literally have a culture of like entrepreneurship and treading all over other people to get to the top, whereas like Australians are like all about mateship. We're all about like whenever there's a fire, whenever there's a flood, like how many people do you know that are in the SES or the rural fire service or the country fire service as volunteers, and they're just there, you know, fighting to save other people's homes, because like that's who we are. And I don't doubt it's got something to do with the fact that we are in the Asian region. We might not be a collectivist society by Asian standards, but I definitely think, you know, compared to, if you want to call it the Anglosphere, or you want to call it the, you know, the United States vassal state network, we you know, one of these things is not like the other, and that's us. And, you know, I would like to see us have better relations with Asia. You know, Asians, they're like us, man. They love the same, they're just as sarcastic as us. They gamble as much as us. They love to get on the piss as much as us. Like, let's go, man. Let's bring this in for this century. Let's go. The Asian Australian century. Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. All you weeaboos, all you Korea boos, all you C-drama fans, let's get together. Let's form a coalition. Let's do it. We can do it.
Which you have just heard read by the Governor General's official secretary was countersigned Malcolm Fraser, who will undoubtedly go down in Australian history from Remembrance Day 1975 as Kerr's Kerr.
How long did this deception?
Sorry, I just clapped into the microphone.
Concerning the Argus project and the not sharing the information, the entire time I worked for the people, and I imagine it continued right up until the point of my trial, until the executive agreement was renegotiated.
So at least 2 years, the 2 years that you were there?
Yes, it never changed.
In your trial, you mentioned interference in the Australian unions. What was that?
Hey, Oak Sentinel, nice to see you. We're watching a video about a US spy that exposed America stabbing Australia in the back and being instrumental in a coup against one of our most important prime ministers in the history of our country. So might have happened in 1975, might not have been born, but you know, still pissed off about it.
In this particular instance, we had hardware, software, and personnel to ship out to Alice Springs. And there was worry over strikes at your airports. They had to do with pilots and air controllers. And here was an area that Peddle had a definite need to know because...
That's TRW.
Right. Because strikes would wreck our schedule. And so in this one instance, a twitch came from Pilot, which said, Pilot will continue to suppress the strikes, continue shipment on schedule. Words to that effect.
So Pilot was the CIA headquarters at Langley.
Langley, Virginia, yes. The hub of the entire intelligence operation.
Was there any more discussion about that? I mean, what did that imply? That the CIA had infiltrated those unions?
Well, my conclusion is that either Central Intelligence directly or through intermediaries would have to have infiltrated the hierarchy of your trade unions at some level.
So Boyce now had the motive.
What unions do you think were infiltrated by the CIA? Put in the chat. What unions would you target if you were the CIA? I think like the Builder Labourers Union. I don't know if the CFMEU existed in its current iteration then. I think back then it might have been the Builders and Labourers Union. Could be wrong, but I can't remember exactly when it became the CFMEU. But yeah, so something along those lines, I believe. Yeah, definitely construction. Yeah. Yeah, and manufacturing as well, I would say. Probably the what is it? The AW I'll have to look it up. I always get it wrong. Australian Workers and Manufacturing Union, I want to say. Yeah, the Australian Manufacturing Workers Union. I was right. I used to see that building all the time. It was on like the Parramatta Granville border. I used to see it all the time when I was a kid. That's why I was like, why can't I remember?
Motivation for espionage, what he calls the CIA's deception and interference in Australia. Working inside the Black Vault at TRW gave him the opportunity. For 2 years, Christopher Boyce found it ridiculously simple to steal America's most highly prized secrets and hand them to the Russians.
My superiors would send me on booze runs to the liquor store, and they would send me out with a satchel past the guards. The guards knew what the satchel was for, never interfered with what was in it. That way I could take out whatever I wanted. Bringing it back in was a bit more of a trouble if I had to keep it overnight.
So you take out the top secret information on the American satellite system under the pretext of going out to get some liquor?
Many times, yeah.
And how did you get it back?
I had a roll of documents, hundreds and hundreds of them, that I had taken out in the satchel. I bought a pot that evening.
This guy is so blatant. He's just carrying out satchels of freaking documents, getting an extension cord, going out into the hallway, and just literally calling Russia and being like, hey, you guys want some intel? I've got some intel. Like, what? Yeah, we love him. Apparently, he's married and I believe still living in the US, but if anyone can find him, like, we should fund him coming to Australia. Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's give him a hero's welcome. Hello, you and me 3. Yeah, yeah, it's going all right. We're just watching a really old interview with Ray Martin interviewing a spy who exposed the CIA spying and backstabbing Australia in like the 1970s. If that interests you, that's what we're doing at the moment.
Put the documents in a plastic bag, set them in the pot, put dirt over the documents, took a plant that I had bought in a store, stuck that in the top of the dirt, went into the guard and told him to go out to my car and bring in the pot.
They gave him like 30 years in jail. So yeah, Ray Martin went over in 82 and this is the interview. Yeah, they let him live, I guess. He's alive. Apparently, we just checked his Wikipedia and he's alive and kicking. So
Plant and put it in the security area.
So the guard brought back the documents.
Yeah.
Was there no
Keystone
trouble?
cops.
Pardon?
Keystone cops.
But was there no trouble in terms of getting that out? I mean, if you really determined to take out one of these top secret documents, you could do it.
Yes.
Time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Take them out, photograph them.
Or photograph them inside. I sometimes would just bring the Knox camera inside and do it in the black vault.
he would just blatantly photograph documents. Like, where was the oversight? He's working with top secret documents and they're just like, yeah, the military base Pine Gap. Yeah. Yep. That's yeah, so it's kind of more convoluted than like than the UK. It's sort of like, you know how we have the Governor General that like serves in the King's stead. So it was more technically the UK, but not really. Like John Kerr's an Australian, the Governor General, who represents the King. And so he probably would have said, sorry, the Queen, Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth was the Queen then. She was the Queen for a really, really, really long time. He would have given Lizzie the heads up, but ultimately it would have been his decision because they're yeah, the royal family mostly stay out of it. It's just a technicality that, you know, we're a constitutional monarchy and technically the queen or king is the head of state. It's more a technicality than like anything else, really. So yeah, it was definitely John Kerr, who the Governor General has to be Australian. Yeah, but yeah, you could say it was technically the Queen, so technically the Poms, because he's a representative of the monarch, if you want to get technical, but yeah.
But then no one had access there but myself.
Yeah, the appointment of the Governor General, she would have some level of say for sure. It's kind of more like a ceremonial role at this stage in the game. They try the royal family try and be a bit more hands off. I think like they're trying to kind of stop Australia from wanting to become a republic, so they kind of try to stay out of it as much as they can. Same with Canada and New Zealand and, you know, the other Commonwealth realms. They kind of are like, oh well, if we want to keep the family together, you know, we're gonna kind of behave ourselves a little bit.
And a limited amount of other people.
Well, that black vault you speak of, I mean, there are stories there of booze parties, of sex parties.
Marijuana growing in the plants inside the communications room. Pretty wild scene. I walked into it. The black vault was almost like the...
Yeah, for sure. Liz was definitely pretty progressive in in that way. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you know, the British Empire had fallen as she was taking the crown, and England's influence was definitely waning, and she kind of inherited a very, you know, a very different climate to you know, to her dad. And I mean, her dad had to become king because his brother abdicated to marry an American. It's so funny how history just keeps on repeating, isn't it? It's actually quite nuts. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Yeah, it's basically just the Governor General conceding. You probably missed it, but this dude here, he was basically saying that the CIA in their communiques were referring to Kerr, the Governor General, as their man. So, insinuating very strongly that Kerr was their asset.
Project Bar. We used to make daiquiris in the document destruction blender.
What, the CIA shredder?
Yes.
To make daiquiri drinks?
Put it to some use.
Ray Martin's low-key impressed. He's like, man, I want to party with you when you get out of jail. Like, this sounds like a time. See, like, when you say stuff like that to an Aussie, he's like, yeah, man. He's down with it. He's like, yeah, party.
Now that's the center. That's where the top
They
information.
were doing it before I got there. It wasn't my idea, but they held a daiquiri.
Was there an excitement of being in espionage? Was there a thrill to that?
21 years old, it's quite a thrill, yes. It's high adventure.
High adventure and pretty dangerous
It's a
stuff.
little hard on your adrenaline gland, but it's a very exciting thing to become involved in. There's no way around that. You never knew when they were coming to get you.
You and me, I think what John Kerr would have said to Queen Elizabeth probably would have been along the lines of, Whitlam can't pass a supply bill, his position's become untenable as Prime Minister, therefore, it's a constitutional crisis, therefore I'm going to dismiss the government. And Lizzie would have gone, oh, okay, well, I'm just feeding the corgis, I've got to go, ta-ta, and, something along those lines. I imagine that's a pretty accurate reenactment. I don't think Kerr would cop to being, a CIA asset. It just seems. I can't imagine Lizzie selling. She was very fond of Australia. I can't imagine her selling us out. She's she very rightly tried to stay out of the UK's politics and our politics, and kind of just whoever was in power she would try and have good relations with, and that was kind of, yeah, I don't think she was informed. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are only finding out about this now, so yeah.
It tainted everything else in your life. As much as you tried to lead a normal life, above board, regular, you still had this other life behind the curtain, which at any moment could destroy everything else you had.
How much were you paid by the Russians?
Personally, or about $20,000. Money was never important to me. I knew from the beginning that I would eventually be caught. There was no escape from it.
Once you'd started, there was no escape?
Absolutely not. After all, I'm an amateur, 21 years old, and the Central Intelligence Agency had been in business a lot longer than I had. And to tell you the truth, I didn't think it would go on longer for a month or two. And I was amazed that it went on for 2 years. Almost 2 years.
Boyce was finally caught in January 1977. Tried and convicted of espionage, he got the maximum, 40 years. But
40
just 2 years later,
years.
Boyce went over the wall and escaped from
He escaped from jail. This guy is such a legend. He's so cool, seriously. He's so cool.
Lompoc Federal Prison in California. There were reports at the time that the fact you got out of Lompoc, that you could only have done it with the help of either the Russians or with the help of the CIA.
I did it with the help of the incompetency of the United States Bureau of Prisons. I had no outside help.
What'd you order this stuff for? You don't look like the painting type to me.
Bureau of Prisons showed a movie, Escape from Alcatraz, and it's a true story. A man escapes from Alcatraz by making a papier-mâché dummy.
Why would you show them a movie about how to escape from jail?
Putting it in his bed, and he's counted it, and then
I think you and me meant that she wasn't informed about the Yanks, not that she wasn't informed about the supply bill.
he leaves. I then went to the arts and crafts people at the prison and asked them for a papier-mâché class, which they then showed me how to make the dummy, really, and I did exactly what was in the...
He literally followed what happened in the movie to escape from jail. Oh, this is the best story. This is the best story ever. Like, this is like a movie. Well, I guess it's like a movie because he copied it from a movie.
I just repeated it. Made the dummy, put it in the bed, and meanwhile I was out in a drain by the fence, at the fences, and the dummy was counted. So I had an 8-hour jump on them. And then I went over the fence through the razor wire in front of a tower, but the guard in the tower wasn't on the ball.
Once outside, Boyce survived alone in the woods for months, living off acorns and berries he'd read about in the
So he's like a survivalist as well. Like, is there anything this dude can't do? This is nuts.
prison library books.
There were reports at the time that you'd gone to South Africa. Did you go to South Africa?
No, I didn't go to South Africa.
Australia? Alice Springs?
No, I missed out on that too.
Were there times when you came close to being caught in those 19 months you were away?
And I was pulled over by 6 officers up in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, late at night with no ID, driving the car. But up in Idaho, they asked me where I was going, and I mentioned a friend of the sheriff's, and they let me go.
This is the most, perhaps at that stage, the most wanted fugitive in the country.
Well, that's how they classified it. Then up in Idaho during the 80 elections, I was sitting in a restaurant in Sandpoint called Connie's, eating a ham and egg omelet. In walked Senator Church campaigning with his whole entourage, reporters, bodyguards, and he worked the restaurant, came up to my table, shook my hand, and told me how much he needed my vote. Ruined my breakfast.
But obviously someone was looking after you at that stage. Luck was on your side. Did you?
I've always been incredibly lucky.
But you
I
weren't
was
when
lucky
you were
to
caught.
escape. I was lucky that it continued for 2 years as it had. Incredible luck.
But your luck ran out.
Luck always does.
Now, you were close to escaping again, weren't you?
Yeah, I was taking pilot lessons up on the coast of Washington. I was being instructed by a brigadier general in the Air Force, General Georgie, which made me a little nervous.
He was taking pilot classes. This guy's just such a G. He's just like tempting fate every single second of the day. This is one of those guys that, like, if bungee jumping was around, he just loves the adrenaline. He's just doing everything for shits and gigs. Look at him.
He didn't know who you were.
No, but I had 2 weeks to go to get my pilot's license, and then I would have left the country. So the government caught me within 2 weeks of my complete freedom.
Why did you stay around for so long? I mean, you were in the country for 19 months. Why did you go, for example, to Russia?
Well, I tell you, if you've ever gone to Boundary County, Idaho, it's some awful nice country, and I had a whole lot of friends up there, and there were so many neat things to do, and I did a lot of hunting, and I hunted bear and elk, and I liked it up there.
So many neat things to do. That doesn't sound like the number one.
Well, I'm
fugitive
not a professional spy, and I'm not a professional anything. I'm an amateur at everything I do, or else I wouldn't be here right now, sitting here in this prison.
Boyce robbed 17 small banks whilst on the run. Bank cameras filmed this hold-up with Boyce in disguise. Finally recaptured by the FBI, he was sentenced to a further 25 years in prison.
Whoa.
That was on top of his 40 years for espionage.
That's a life sentence.
Depending on who you want to believe, which study, he's got an IQ of 127 or 140. He's a personable, charming guy, young man, I should say. He is a student of history. Women like him. I don't want to say that he's a ladies' man in that sense, but young girls are drawn to him.
Was there any other way to do it?
Yeah, he would 100% be like, have lots of mates in prison, I would say. Yeah, 140 is a pretty high IQ. It's pretty up there.
I suppose there was, but I was 21 and saw things black and white, and it seemed to me my government had betrayed me long before I ever betrayed them.
Prison warders are taking no chances this time around. Only 3 men have escaped from maximum security here at Leavenworth, and they don't intend Boyce to be number 4.
Stand there a second. Okay, Gary, you've got one.
But if there's no hope of getting out, then Boyce says he'll have to consider suicide.
It would be a viable option.
If the front door was opened, would you walk out?
Take off like a jackrabbit.
Get him out, Ray. Get him out. Sneak him
Christopher
out.
Boyce didn't kill or kidnap anybody. He's just not a violent man. But what he did do was commit treason. And nobody loves a Russian spy, whatever the reason. As Boyce himself says, the chance
If James Bond movies are correct, and I believe they are, Russian spies are really, 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 really hot.
of him getting parole are next to nil. So unless he escapes once again, which seems unlikely, unless he's murdered in here, which is always on the cards, or unless there's some kind of a deal, which nobody's talking about, Christopher Boyce is going to be 94 years old before he walks out of these doors here at Leavenworth.
I think that if Mr. Nixon's government hadn't gone down in flames, I don't think that this would have happened. But at the same time, it goes way beyond Richard Nixon and Watergate. I think that it's just the whole general drift of where this government is headed. I think that this government is a threat to mankind. You can't protect freedom and liberties behind stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons and nuclear weapons. My government built atomic weapons, used them first, stockpiled them first, murdered our ICBMs first, which was a grotesque escalation. And now that the Russians have played catch-up for 20 years and finally achieved equality, the only policy to come out of the White House is build 17,000 more of the monsters. And to me, that's madness.
Your motivation is not pro-Russia as against anti-Washington, anti-American.
Correct.
Could it be said that in giving those secrets to the Russians, that in fact you'd thrown into jeopardy the lives of every American man, woman and child?
They're already in jeopardy. Third World War is inevitable.
So you don't think you added to that at all?
It's a hard one.
Wow. Like, what an incredible man. Seriously, people like him are, they're few and far between. People that just have that strong sense of justice and that almost self-destructive streak, and when those things come together, people will just, risk everything for what they think is right. 62 years in jail. that's almost unfathomable. Like, I can't even imagine that. Like, think back to how we all felt in COVID, and like that was in the comfort of our own homes. Like, imagine being in jail for 62 years. It's absolutely nuts. So the RBA dropped interest rates by 0.25%. If anyone in the chat is rich enough to have a mortgage, congratulations. Yeah, that's the other news in Australia today. I am just going to take a quick break, but I will be back momentarily. Thanks for hanging out. All right, I am back. I've been on the grind with production. I've had some help, yeah. I had a very clever person help me like with the 3D model, trying to make it look like me and kind of, yeah, do like a little bit like of a goth Sailor Moon thing. And yeah. Oh, there's a bot in the chat. Go away. I'm glad you won your argument, Shiro Nyan 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 Nyan. Everything, all the news is just about the coalition breakup. Yada yada yada. Bup bup bup. Does anybody have anything that they want to watch? I thought I would have enough content for a few hours. Oh, I suppose I've been going for 2.5 hours. That's pretty decent. Oh, this looks interesting. About people that worship Trump, I think. Americans invented a new Christianity. Here's why that's terrifying. Yeah, you and me, we talked about it earlier in it was the first thing we spoke about was the Nats and Livs getting divorced. I'm getting an ad blocker extension as well. I've got to sort that out probably tomorrow. I just didn't get around to it today.
President in American history. Work with me here, because both times that he was elected, evangelical Christians were one of his most influential and supportive voting blocs. And he hasn't been shy about courting Christians.
God spared my life for a reason.
To a large extent, he's delivered on the promises that he made to his evangelical base. He helped end Roe. He let religious organizations avoid the Affordable Care Act's contraception requirements. And of course, he's systematically wiping out any mention of trans folks, a favorite cudgel of many evangelicals. And to top it off, he signed an executive order declaring an end to anti-Christian bias. Because of course, when you think of the most persecuted religious group in the U.S.,
Evangelical Christians don't really follow what the Bible says, though. They've got some really wacky ideas. Really, really wacky ideas.
evangelical Christians really leap to mind. Now, Trump and Christianity have always seemed like an odd partnership.
An Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Jesus constantly talked about loving your enemies, supporting the least of these, living in a way filled with love.
Sell all your belongings and give the money to the poor.
Mr. Trump, well, his hobby of extramarital affairs and shady business deals doesn't exactly scream Christian values.
Is she your wife? You know what? I would say she's a beautiful woman, but if I did say that, my political career, you're not allowed to say that.
You know, the very mention of things like love and mercy seem to make him squirm.
They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
So how has he become a hero, even a leader for American Christians? Well, there's two people who can help us explain the rise of Trump and Christianity. One is Friedrich Nietzsche. The other is Paula White.
The longer the dance, the more bees she gets aroused.
I don't know what's going on and I'm very, very scared. What is this? What are you doing, lady? Are you okay? Is this like some type of epileptic episode? Because I've seen my sister do things like this when she's having seizures.
So Queen Bee starts going into this frenzy.
If you haven't heard of her, just wait. She's more fun than a barrel of monkeys. Okay, let's start by clarifying which brand of Christians have anointed Trump as the second coming. Now, some of his most vocal supporters have been Christian nationalists, and specifically white Christian nationalists. And it's easy to listen to the news and feel like
what's going on in Argentina? Yeah. Yeah, we can definitely look at that. Yeah, inflation is really, really, really bad over there. My friend just got married to an Argentinian girl actually, and they've got a little baby, super cute. As an aside, just an anecdote. I just wanted to share. It's cute.
These white Christian nationalists are some shadowy conspiratorial society threatening our democracy's very existence. Well, you wouldn't be totally wrong to think that, but Christian nationalism itself is a sort of debatable moniker. Researchers tend to disagree about what Christian nationalism even is or the degree to which it functions as a coherent ideology. In fact, a report published by the Pew Research Foundation in January wrote that there is no universally accepted definition of religious nationalism, which makes it hard to have a clear definition of what makes someone a Christian nationalist. But they elaborate that in order to be defined as a Christian nationalist, you would have to agree with 4 principles. The first is that being a Christian is very important to being truly American. And it is very important that the US president share their beliefs, and the Bible should have at least some influence over US laws. And when the
I'm not an expert in the American Constitution, but I'm pretty sure it protects expression of religion, all religions. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. Isn't that why a lot of people left the UK to come to England so they could practice their little weird religious sects without like fear of persecution? Not prosecution, persecution. There we go.
Bible conflicts with the will of the people, the Bible should have more influence. Pew found that by these measures, just 6% of US adults consider themselves Christian nationalists. And we can take this in two ways, right? Either, so maybe there aren't actually many Christian nationalists.
I just don't see how those two things are congruent. Like, you can't worship the state and worship God at the same time. Like, you choose a lane.
Or might be a lot of folks practicing a type of faith that's in line with nationalism, even if they're not consciously aware of it.
We take our authority over this election. Jesus is Lord.
And while there's a lot to unpack in that list, nothing here is all that different than what the old moral majority or Christian right has stood for decades, back when Billy Graham was praying on the White House lawn. Now, evangelical Christians have preferred candidates that reflect biblical values, like an emphasis on family values, opposition to abortion and gay rights, and support for prayer in schools. So if Christians say the Bible is so important to them, then why did they help elect a guy who's more interested in it as a prop rather than as a sacred text?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
In the 1960s, sociologist Robert Bella argued that much of the way Americans talk about their country echoes the way Christians talk about their faith, and he deems this worldview a civil religion. Now, America doesn't have an official religion technically, but civil religion is infused with vibes and rituals of Christianity. So in this civil religion, we get sacred text like the Declaration of Independence, sacred symbols like the American flag, and of course we get sacred leaders like Abraham Lincoln and the Founding Fathers. But there's also a conception of America as the promised land, the establishment of a new...
I know that's what Mormonism is sort of based on, right? They say America is actually Israel, and that the Native Americans are or the First Nation Americans are the real Israelis, and when you die, you get your own planet and you become your own God. None of these things are remotely Christian. None of these things are, this is all just absolutely bizarre to me. Yeah, like...
social order that shall be a light unto all nations.
God spared my life for a reason, and that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness.
Now, Bella describes this.
I can't imagine how narcissistic you would have to be to say that you were chosen by God to lead your country. Like back in Europe, up until Napoleon, the Pope used to crown the monarch. All the European monarchs were crowned by the Pope, and Napoleon famously grabbed the crown out of the Pope's head and put it on hand. He grabbed the crown out of the Pope's hand and put it on his own head, and that was like that's a very famous, historically significant moment.
Civil religion as a genuine vehicle of national religious self-understanding. And indeed, our political language is infused with this American exceptionalism that relies on God favoring the American people and the ostensible American way of life. To the degree civil religion has a God, it's less concerned with the Sermon on the Mount and more concerned with the U.S. being a city on a hill, a shining beacon of prosperity and freedom. Now, in the decades since Bella's article, and as Christian leaders have sought more influence in politics, you could argue that civil religion has become more religious while Christianity has become more civil or political. In the 2000s, when the culture started shifting to the left, we saw expanded rights granted to the LGBTQ community, women's health care, and minorities. Christian leaders began to describe this as an affront to God and a symptom of America in decline. So when Trump uses rhetoric about anti-Christian bias, and Christians claim that their religious freedom is under attack, well, it's likely not their faith, but the civil expression of that faith that they see as under attack. But you know who saw all of this coming? Your friend and mine, Friedrich Nietzsche, who compares Christianity to a slave morality defined by its ressentiment, which is a type of resentment. In The Genealogy of Morals, Nietzsche describes a noble morality and a slave morality. And he says the slave morality is based on the idea of no. He calls no the creative deed and goes on to say, in order to exist, slave morality always first needs a hostile external world. It needs, physiologically speaking, external stimuli in order to act at all. Its action is fundamentally reaction. Now, by asserting its own victimization, Christianity establishes the grounds of its existence, which breeds a kind of anger and resentment, and then wields that anger as a tool for power. And when you're a religion or a political party identified by what you're against, it becomes really hard to shed that vibe when you actually win. And we can see this in how the current Republican Party behaves. Like, they're the party in power, and you get scenes like this one.
Can't trust the government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
And of course, there's the reactions to Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance, which spun conservatives into a rage because they...
Yeah, but this is just weird neo-puritanical, like puritanical bullshit. I've lost the ability to speak tonight. I just really have.
They might have power, but they're still not very cool. Political rhetoric in the US has always had echoes of civil religion, but this turn towards resentment has been brewing since the civil rights movement. Now, Christian leaders like Jerry Falwell spoke out against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, claiming that it was a violation of human and private property rights. In the mid-2000s, the idea that gay marriage could become legalized or that a healthcare law may contain a mandate to cover contraceptives all became fodder for Christians to claim that their religious freedom was under threat.
If you are pro-life and you don't want people to have abortions, how about we allow access to the mechanisms that help people prevent pregnancies? Then people won't have abortions. Like, the arguments against contraception are just, it's stupid. I know, like, Catholics aren't supposed to use contraception and we're supposed to just, like, get knocked up all the time, but that doesn't sound like fun. That sounds that sounds bad. I think, you know, what do the Jehovah's Witnesses say? Like, play now, pray later, you know, ask for forgiveness later, do the sins, then do the forgiveness.
Because if I'm an evangelical Christian and someone uses birth control 100 miles away, my soul dies. This psychology is all exempt.
Well, yeah, Shiro Nyan Yan. I knew the answer. I was just being facetious. Yeah. No, that's 100% what it's about.
Amplified in things like the God's Not Dead series of movies. If you're a sicko like me and you want to know more about them, we've made videos on all of those movies. You can check them out. But this all adds up to the idea that the real threat to humanity isn't climate change or, I don't know, nuclear apocalypse. It's the liberals. But how does this all explain Trump's unlikely rise to figurehead of this civil religion? Before we get into it, I need to tell you about something. Spam. Now, spam has taken over all of our lives. You know, all those constant calls about your car's extended warranty and emails claiming that you want a gift card and it floods your inbox every single day. If you've ever wondered how spammers get your info, I know I have. It's because they probably bought it. Because there's a whole market out there that many of us aren't aware of where our personal information gets bought and sold. They know your name, your age, where you live, your phone number, your email address, what you buy online, even your browsing history. You have the right to demand that your name and information be taken off these lists, but the process can be pretty complicated and time consuming, which brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Incogni. Now, Incogni is a service that helps you fight back against data brokers and remove your information from their databases. And here's how it works, right? So you give Incogni permission to act on your behalf, and they go find those lists that you're on and demand you be taken off.
I just zoned out and we didn't realize he was doing the sponsorship. I was like, huh? What's going on?
So click the link in the description and get 6. This resentment and erosion over America's decline as a moral leader hit its apex during Barack Obama's tenure as president. She writes that, primed by conspiracy theories about Obama's place of birth, his race, and his religion, from the outset, many in the movement were ready to believe that he was poised to eviscerate their freedom and crush Christianity. Every move as president, real and imagined, was fodder for these superstitions.
I guarantee you, none of these people have read the book of Revelation. They couldn't tell you who wrote it. They couldn't tell you what it says because nothing about Obama or anything about him would line up with him being the Antichrist. It just goes to show like a total lack of the religion that they so strongly want to claim. They don't know anything about it. Like, that's, You know, I used to read the book of Revelation all the time when I was a goth kid because I just thought it was the most goth thing ever. Like I just loved reading about like the four horsemen of the apocalypse and like the swarms of locusts and all like I don't know. I just thought it was really goth and really cool. So I kind of know a bit about this stuff considering I've probably read the last book in the Bible, you know, probably I don't know, probably at least 30 times, I would say.
Now, the most potent of these conspiracy theories, that Obama was not really American, was fittingly championed by Trump.
This is a huge investment, but when you look at the cost of it, it's really cheap.
The Christian right.
Oh, okay. Shiro Nyan Nyan, I might look at the app that you suggested. That's really good, actually. I'll write that down. That's a really good suggestion. Thank you.
It found a figure who forcefully voiced the same resentment as they did. You know, it doesn't hurt that Trump is famously resentful of anyone who doesn't agree with his views or that criticizes him publicly. His main driving force seems to be undermining or destroying anyone who personally offends him or opposes his policies or implicates him in crimes. So Christian leaders sort of found a kindred and kindredly resentful spirit in Trump. You know, when Trump talked about America in decline, Christian leaders agreed. And when Trump famously said this in his convention,
I alone can fix it.
He tapped into the Christian desire for a savior who can deliver the chosen people from their suffering. What's more, Trump becomes not just a symbol for the Christian right, but he embraces their embrace of him. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't just accept it, he loves it. But there's also another thing that's going on here, and it's a shift within Christianity itself to embrace a thing called the prosperity gospel. Now, it started out as a fringe movement.
The prosperity gospel. Oh, there's this cult. It's an Australian cult, actually, but it's gone worldwide. And celebrities like Justin Bieber and all those types of people are members of it. It's called Hillsong. It started in the northwest of Sydney, around like this district called the Hills, hence Hillsong. And yeah, I'd never come across Pentecostal Christianity before, and then all of a sudden I actually lived with a girl in my late teens, when I lived in a really posh area of Sydney because I was renting a room there because it was close to Sydney Uni. And she was a member, and like their whole thing is like God wants you to be rich. Like they really believe like yeah, it's all about like self-enrichment, and like God wants you to be rich, and it says in the Bible like if you do all these things like God will make you rich. It's like, what Bible have you been reading? Absolutely insane. And they do all that weird like American like Pentecostal stuff where they like speak in tongues and everything. And the guy that founded it was a PDF file as well. There's a lot of like, I think A Current Affair, it might have been 60 Minutes, did an expose on him, but they all live in America now, like the founders of the church. I think like the son of the founder of the church, he like left and went to America. Yeah, they're worth billions of dollars. They've made billions of dollars. Like this church is everywhere, and they have like these big like rock concerts, and it's all like this weird Christian rock, and like my old housemate would like try and get me to go, and I was like, no. Oh, like I will be fine. But yeah, I wasn't really aware of like all these weird like little American Christian sects, like because in Australia we kind of just have like our Catholics, or we have like, you know, our Anglican, or like our Presbyterian sort of. It's like it's either Catholic or it's like Protestant basically. And oh well, obviously Orthodox as well. Like we have a lot of Greeks and a lot of Russian Orthodox, and Coptic Orthodox as well. I know quite a few Egyptians who are Coptic Orthodox. Yeah, but we just have like the old school, you know, the old school follow the Bible type Christianity, and this was all just so bizarre to me. it's so weird that Americans were able to make Christianity like capitalistic. Like, how can this religion enrich me and myself?
Has gone fully mainstream, with some studies pegging the number of Protestants who believe in this form of Christianity as high as 50%. It's even found its way into pop culture with books like The Secret. This is the belief that God wants you, yes you, to be wealthy, prosperous, and healthy. But theologically, it holds the notion that revelation supersedes things like facts and reason, and that one's authority is imbued with things like the supernatural powers to heal and even lift people out of poverty. So it's like cool if people get out of poverty if magic does it, but not if policy does it. I get it. This is why televangelists present themselves as anointed leaders who are modern day.
Yeah, see, and the Christianity that I grew up with really, encourages charity and helping those people less fortunate than you. And yeah, this isn't something that I recognize as remotely Christian. I mean, they might call it that, but it's Christianity in name only. Am I a Methodist? I am Catholic. I probably go to mass like twice a year, but I don't really, I'm a Christian in the sense that like I believe in God. I believe Jesus is the Son of God. I believe, I believe the main things that make you a Christian. I just, I don't always follow the rules, let's just say. But it's definitely where like a lot of my morals come from. It's definitely why like I got into social work, and it's definitely, I mean, it's not where my compassion comes from, but I think for some people that maybe don't have a strong moral compass, I think if you are somebody that does struggle with right and wrong, I think for some people religion can provide that framework. You would hope that people were just empathetic by nature, but some people aren't. So unfortunately, yeah, some humans be shit.
Prophets and apostles. And you know who loves this whole vibe? Donald Trump. Now, Posner describes how during his first campaign, Trump struck up a friendship with the televangelist and prosperity gospel preacher, Paula White. Trump found her messages of success to be appealing, and in Trump, Paula White saw the fulfillment of everything the prosperity gospel preaches.
And every demonic altar that has been erected against him will be torn down.
So in Trump, we get this weird, powerful amalgamation of different narratives of Christianity that carry echoes of civil religion, resentment, racism.
They're treating him like he's the second coming. That's so blasphemous. That's actually in the book of Revelation what they say Christians will do with the Antichrist. Like if anything, they're actually suggesting that Trump is the Antichrist.
And now the prosperity gospel. Who would have thought it would all come together like this? You know what? Trump friggin' loves it. In his embrace of Christianity and the prosperity gospel, he's become a secular version of everything the prosperity gospel believes. He's rich. He demands absolute loyalty. And he promises that he alone can save us. He might have only recently proclaimed himself a king, but he's been giving off godlike vibes for a while. Posner writes that his pronouncements are not to be questioned, and his followers believe he will, supernaturally or otherwise.
Yeah, who remembers in 2016 when they were calling him the God Emperor, like he was Xerxes or something? He's about to go off and fight the Spartans. Like, are you okay in the head? Is everything all right at home? Do you need me to call someone?
Make America great again. They believe Trump will achieve MAGA because God has anointed him to carry out this mission. He may not actually be a Christian, but God has chosen him to protect Christians and therefore America. When Christians are fed a message of constant suppression of free expression of religion, and then that gets combined with a figure who preys on the psychological persecution of those Christians, well, you get strange, but oddly.
Yeah, this is what we call a golden calf. The Bible clearly says not to worship false idols. Like, this is that They've made Trump an idol and they're literally worshipping him. That's insane. That's absolutely like, dude. I don't want to watch Hillsong music. I want to watch an expose. Where's a short one? They're all like 2 hours long. Anyway, we might do a deep dive on that later because that's actually one of the biggest churches in the world. And it you don't know what Hillsong is? It's like the mega church that started in the Hills district of Sydney. It's like a Pentecostal you know, the people that are always like they've got their hands in the air and they have like this big concert and they like drop to the ground and say they're speaking in tongues and they start convulsing. It's like Justin Bieber and all these people. Like it's worldwide now. It's got like it's very, very trendy. And yeah, they just practice like the prosperity gospel and all this like weird. It's like very, if you are actually Christian, you would say this shit is demonic. Like the founder was literally a pedophile. I don't know where in Oz you're from, but if you're from Sydney, do you know like the Balcombe Hills, like Bella Vista, those kinds of suburbs? That's like where Hillsong started, if you know any of those suburbs. But yeah, we can definitely do a deep dive on this some other time because it's actually, yeah. I feel somewhat guilty because oh, you're from Singapore? I don't know why I thought you were Aussie. You just seem Aussie. Maybe I didn't know you were from Singapore because you weren't saying la all the time. Everyone I know from Singapore does that. I really like it. I kind of feel it's like how Australians say hey all the time. But yeah, I love Singapore. Whenever I like have to change planes at Singapore, I'm like, ah, the airport. It has a koi pond, it has a waterfall, it has a butterfly garden, it has a Louis Vuitton museum, so I can look at all the handbags I'll never own. It's great. I love it. Well, I am probably gonna call it soon, but I'll just leave the BRB back so you guys can finish up your conversations because it looks like Shiro Nyan Nyan and Hyperbovian are having a little bit of a discourse about I think Marx and Engels, and I'm not sure because I can't see all of it, but it looks like there's some conversations going. I'm probably gonna start a Discord or something like that in at a later stage. But yeah, I'll just put the BRB back and I'll give you guys like 5 minutes or so to wind down before I finish the stream. But I'll just mute the mic and stuff and yeah, just leave this up.